Yo, Skulls here with more salon tips. In this video, I'll show you how to get the skin tone you want on your character in PSO2 by matching it to a picture, a screenshot, and using RGB values. When changing colors in the salon, you have a few options. You can use the preset color selector, the sliders, and you can also use the RGB values. R being the amount of red, G for the amount of green, and B for the amount of blue used to make a color. Let's start with finding the color values. I usually use a website called redketchup.io because it has pretty much everything you need. I'll leave a link to this in the description. If you go to the website, you'll see that you have your preset colors. There's also a color slider. Underneath that on the right side, it shows you the position of the slider. And on the left side, it shows you the hex code and a tiny color square. If you go underneath, there's a bigger color square. Keep in mind the way the color appears in PSO is going to look a little bit different than the square. Then down here, you have the hex code again, and you also have the RGB code. You can also switch the formatting for the color values, but most places you only need the hex code or the RGB code. Okay, let's start with a picture of my friend Eris. What you'll want to do is try to find the middle color. And the way that you can find this is by taking the slider, moving it around the skin. That way you can see the lightest color and also the darkest color. Then pick the tone that's in the middle of that. That will be your main skin color. With the subcolor, since that's what adds depth to the main color, you want to find the darkest color on the skin. If you want to play around a little bit with those colors, you can also find the lightest color on the skin to try as a subcolor. Now we're going to enter in the values. For this one, we have 242 of red, 207 of green, and 165 of blue. As you can see, the color is a bit lighter than it initially showed on the color picker. So what you'll want to do is take the middle slider and just move it around. Usually making it a few tones darker tends to match, but sometimes you have to play with the warmth a little bit. You shouldn't have to move the actual palette color. Moving the slider around should get you the desired look. And then of course you enter in the values for the subcolor. You can play around with that slider a bit or try using the lighter color we selected. Eris also wanted me to give you guys a tip. Skin colors are also selectable for accessories and other items you can color change. Because of that, Eris uses white as her subcolor as an example. Now we'll try on a darker skin tone. I have this picture of me and Chrono. On art like this that has flat colors, it's much easier to match the skin tone. Now we'll use the color picker to find the base skin tone to use as our main. And then we are going to pick the darkest tone, which is pretty easy because this has a shadow, and that will be our subcolor. Now enter in the values. As you can see, compared to the screenshot, we have almost a perfect match. From there, you can move the slider around to play with the warmth of the color, as well as the lightness and darkness. For this one, we're using a more neutral color with a heavy filter on it. This was taken by a community member, Strangeland102. As you can see, even my skin color looks a bit different. We're going to match to the lightest and darkest colors. Then we're going to input those values for the main color, being the lightest, and the subcolor being the darkest. Which leaves us with a bit of a grayish color, so make sure to keep that in mind when using screenshots. Here we have a screenshot of fresh dynamite using quite a bit of filtering. So after finding the base color and the darkest color, when we add the values onto PSO, we get a color like this, which is similar, but it definitely needs some adjusting. You can play around with the subcolor a bit to change the undertones and the depth. The last example, I'm actually going to be using a picture of myself IRL. I'm going to match the skin tone of my PSO2 character to this picture. So of course, we find the base and we find the darkest color. Now we'll take those values and add them into PSO. The color shows up quite a bit lighter, so we'll darken it just a bit. We have almost an exact match, but it does have a little bit of yellow undertones, so we're going to move the slider just a little bit within the same color block. Alright, Rare Drops, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said, it's not going to be an exact match, but if you have a hard time picking your skin tone, you can always use a picture, which will get you on the right track. Okay everyone, stay comfy. Sayonara!